Yo, what's going on, lifers? Welcome to another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. I am your host, Jake Thomas, and today's guest is coming to us by way of a little bit east of Texas in the great state of Tennessee. He is a man, is a friend of mine. Actually, we met earlier this year at the Hack Your Health conference here in Austin. He is an outlier in what he does and a disruptor by trade, I should say. Because of what he does, he is the founder and owner of Farrow, Farrow skincare company. He uses pork, so pig lard, to put on our skin and our bodies. What? Without further ado, Mr. Charles Mansfield. What's going on, Charles? Welcome to the show.
Jake, it's awesome to be here, man. I've had the fortunate circumstance to see you twice this year in person, and now a third time here through the interwebs. But yeah, man, great to see you. Excited to be here and unpack the power of the pig.
Yeah, man, right on. And I said Charles. I don't know why I said Mansfield. Charles Mayfield is his name, not Mansfield. That's a typo on my part. But man, easy way to start. But like, tell us about it. Like, how'd you get into thinking about using? I don't want to say thinking about it because it's not like it's not new, right? It's new to us. It's new to what seems to be the unconventional. It seems unconventional, but it's like, it's age old. It's traditional. But what got you into doing this, first off, with using pork lard for skincare?
Yeah, well, it's the ultimate OG. Actually, I got to tell you, man, it was half accident, I would say half desperation and half curiosity. So
Nice.
the tipping point, Jake, I'll never forget the day, was July 5th, 2019. I was farming hard in East Tennessee and came home with what I'm sure many of your listeners can relate to, like a stage 5 sunburn. Like one of the, everyone with light enough skin can close their eyes and reminisce about those, 2, 3, 4, 5 times where you just get absolutely barbecued.
Lobstered.
Yeah, completely lobstered. And came home. I live in a small town in East Tennessee. I'm sure Walmart might, actually, it's such a small town. Our Walmart is not 24 hours, right? So, came home and, I can tell this story now. I'm not really sure the thought process that led to it, but I did have a recollection. Like we were talking before we hit record, my mom's from Mobile, Alabama, spent much time on the Gulf Coast and specifically Mobile Bay growing up. But I had these memories, like every time we go to the beach, Mom would take her jar of aloe vera and stick it in the fridge. Like the minute we got there, it went in the fridge.
Yep.
And so I come home with this, probably second degree sunburn. And in an act, I was raising pigs at the time. So pastured pork, we'd started a sort of a micro polyface farms model. And I had a jar of lard. I've got a background in sort of nutrition, wellness, and cooking. My ex-wife and I have published a number of cookbooks in the paleo space. And so I had been rendering lard from my pigs and was cooking with it and frying with it and all various things. And it just sort of popped in my head. I was like, oh, I've got this jar of lard in the fridge. Why the hell wouldn't I try it? And so, we say lathered up all the time. I coated my skin with this stuff. And, Jake, and I mean, when I say coated, again, your listeners probably can relate. Like I was a greased pig. Like it was a noticeable layer of this stuff. And I just went and sat in my living room, late at night on a weeknight to sort of suffer. And in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I think I probably turned the TV on just to sort of pass the time. But I looked down at my skin and the stuff was gone. Like no residue on my skin, like gone. And so what I tell people is my skin literally ate this stuff, which, that was kind of cool. Took a shower, went to bed, got up the next morning, put another coat of this stuff on. So 2 applications. And in about 2 or 3 days, my sunburn turned to a nice golden brown, which was, big bonus there. And, you've been in the health wellness sort of, nutritional tinkering, we're always tinkering with stuff, but also
Sure.
you learn to pay attention. And so when the sunburn went away, I was like, man, that's really something else. But I started watching my skin like a hawk. And again, I had these memories of like, sometimes it takes 2 weeks, sometimes it takes 3 weeks before your skin peels. And
Sure.
it never came. Like I literally, I mean, like your shoulders, those joints that move a
Yeah.
lot. I just
Yeah.
kept waiting. And that was really the light bulb moment. I don't have a background in any of, dermatology or esthetician or any of that stuff, but it's always made intuitive sense to me looking back. It's made
Yeah.
intuitive sense to me why it would work so well. Of course, now I'm in the business of trying to explain to people why lard is what I believe is the ideal fat for human
Mm.
skin. But that was where it all started. And fast forward, we launched in January of 2022. A
Nice.
lot happened in the world. This was July of 19. A lot
Yeah.
of crazy things came along in early 2020. Was still farming. I still have a full time job. I do a lot of risk management and insurance work, commercial insurance
Cool.
work, and so just busy. But I started making samples of this stuff and playing around with it and taking it to. I had these farming customers and friends, just started handing this stuff out to people in these little bitty sort of novelty jars. And, the phone kept ringing and people kept telling me how much they liked it. And, it worked on, arguably sunburn's probably the most common acute skincare condition, certainly in the summer. Uh,
Sure.
I started playing with it. I haven't had razor burn now in like 3 or 4 years. I just started playing around with stuff. And so at some point, a buddy of mine was like, man, you ought to you ought to launch, you ought to make a company out of this. And so here we are today. We're closing in on the end of our third year in business. It's been, man, what a roller coaster
That's
ride.
awesome. That's awesome. And congrats. I think that's something we can all definitely relate to as far as in the sunburn. Those of us that have been at the beach or have had that experience where you could say it's one of those 2 or 3 times where you've really just gotten roasted. And I can definitely think to myself, literally saying verbatim, I would pay $1,000 that I don't have at the time. Like I'd pay $1,000 to have a bathtub full of chilled aloe vera gel and just get in it. Like I want to just literally get in a bathtub full of like goop gel and just not move because I'm that sunburned, right? So
Yep.
like when you're talking about being cooked and crispy like that, it's like yeah, when you're saying you lathered up and literally were, caked in, like, yes, I know exactly what you mean. And I know that feeling because I've tried to do it with aloe vera where I'm like, I'm taking the whole freaking bottle out of the fridge. And we used to do the same thing, like get to the beach, unload everything, aloe vera in the fridge, the green one and the blue one.
Yep.
One that had the menthol even added to it. Like put the menthol one for sure, get that one in there. So when you say that, like, yeah, I can absolutely see the same thing. But really cool that you saw not an after sheen on there, but after 5-10 minutes, like you said, of watching TV, that your skin just ate it up.
Yeah, well, it speaks to the real problem in skincare today. People don't understand. It's our largest organ. It is a transdermal highway, right? It eats things. It
Yep.
consumes things. I mean, Lord, how many people that are using transdermal nicotine patches or
Yeah.
any other
Yeah.
sort of? It's a great delivery mechanism, and for better for worse, it delivers things directly into the bloodstream. And so, that's one of the things that sort of came along secondhand when I started trying to formulate these creams. Like you do what any idiot does. You go to the Google and you DIY and you sort of try to make this stuff work. And Jake, I had 10 or 15 years in the saddle with sort of this paleo movement and nutrition and coaching people. I used to run a gym in Atlanta, and you've heard this a million times. If you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't eat it. And I call it my paleo lens, but I had just kept that lens hyper focused on food. I'd never shined it on skincare. And man, it is an absolute cesspool of toxic ingredients. These preservatives and chemicals and phthalates and parabens and all the nice thing about our gastrointestinal tract, if you want to call it a nice thing, is it's this highly acidic environment. It's it's developed mechanisms for getting things out that don't agree with us. If you've ever eaten something that didn't agree with you, there's usually a really fast train either out the north tunnel or the south tunnel.
Yeah.
Our skin, regrettably, in today's world is bombarded by chemicals and these various compounds that didn't even exist 100 years ago. Right. I mean, that gag reflex, that diuretic sort of response, the gastrointestinal response, that's a response that's been built over, hundreds of thousands of years of maybe not so good meat or spoiled this or bad that. Our skin, I mean, literally our skin, the toxicity our skin came in contact with, let's just say 1,000 years ago, might be, worst case, might be some poison ivy or some other thing that was either really hot or really acidic or really cold, where you had an almost a visceral physical response to it, not a chemical response. And so that's, if I can boil it down to one of the big motivations for why I continue to do this, it's death by 1,000 cuts. Like the junk that they let and allow on our skin in today's world is it's literally poisoning us. One application at a time.
Death by 1,000 cuts is a great way to phrase it too. And, kind of what you're talking about, putting all these things on, whether it's with paraffins or parabens and, sulfates and preservatives and additives and adulterants, dilutants. I mean, things that are absolutely not made for us to be worn, let alone be permeated through into our skin. I was talking on another show earlier today about skincare and the sun. And since you brought up sunburn, the sun has been around for billions with a capital B, billions of years, right? And all of a sudden, skin cancer and issues with skin related, I'm using quotations, related to the sun is automatically, is now all of a sudden the sun's fault. Mm-hmm. The sun is harmful. The sun is doing this to us. The sun is causing skin cancer. The sun is killing us. The sun is doing all these detrimental and harmful things to us. No. How about what we're doing with the sun to ourselves is creating and causing all those issues? Example, the sun is the greatest natural radiator and microwave. We know this. This is what it does. That provides radiation, it provides ultraviolet light, it provides microwave, it provides heat, it provides energy, it provides life. Okay, that's one-way traffic. So that is coming from this multi-billion-year-old star. That is a pretty good constant that we know in life, in the universe, that this multi-billion-year-old star is penetrating us with light and heat and radiation and Got it. So what we're doing with it is what's causing it to be harmful. We ingest certain foods or we wear certain chemicals via topical application. And by doing so, with the food we ingest permeates through our skin, through our sweat, and causes a sheen that covers the skin. The surface of our skin mixes with our sweat and our natural oils, or we're putting these other chemicals on top of our skin, mixing with our natural oils. And guess what? The sun is just doing its job of radiating and microwaving. But because what's on the surface of that skin now is toxic, that radiation and microwaving, unfortunately, is a perfect incubator to create problems a la skin cancer and other things that we do not want. It is not the sun's fault, but it is what we're doing with it that's causing those issues.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a couple things there. One is you have a burgeoning and growing, probably multi-million-dollar red light therapy sauna industry, and their only job is to mimic the early morning, late evening UV and near infrared rays that the sun's already emitting for free, right? That's fascinating. Um, I'm going to say a couple things. One is the sun. Well, the sun's always been there. Our relationship with the sun has drastically changed in the
Mm.
last 85 to, I would say, 125 years. Certainly the last 85 years. Let me
Mm.
unpack that for a minute. I always like to rewind the clock to say 1910. In 1910, you got me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Okay,
got you.
sorry. I've got my phone on do not disturb, I think, but somehow a call came in. Anyway,
That's okay.
for you folks out there, we're happily being able to do this. My internet's completely out, so I'm on cell data, and Jake's been kind enough to keep me on task. But you go you, in 1910, in 1930, at noon on a Wednesday or a Saturday,
Mm.
there, first of all, there were no swimming pools. There were plenty of ponds and creeks and rivers and oceans and gulfs and all that. But you wouldn't see people just hanging out half naked at noon anywhere. It just,
Mm.
you'd have a big
Mm.
floppy hat. You'd be fully clothed. I mean, we've been working in direct sunlight as a species for thousands of years. It's just, we weren't doing it half naked. And then along comes the skincare
Mm.
industry and these sunscreens because the sun's going to, hurt you. And listen, I'm all for if you want to be half naked at noon, you should probably have some protection on. Now, the sunscreens in today's world, most of them are chemical based. None of them are really mineral based. There's a handful of reputable, wonderful brands in my space, and we'll have a
Yeah.
sunscreen product at some point. But
Nice.
foundationally, I
Nice.
like to encourage people to step back and just develop a smarter relationship with the sun. If I go to the beach with my
Agreed.
kids, here's a good rule of thumb for your listeners. If your shadow is taller than you are, you cannot get sunburned. That means the sun is either low enough or far enough in the horizon that there's enough interference, atmospheric interference, that you're not going to get sunburned. Okay. Well, in the
That's
yeah,
good. That's good.
if your shadow is taller than you, you don't need to worry about being sunburned. Um, the best example of this is how conditioned we are. Both my kids swim, and they have like a summer swim league, right? Well, we had a swimming
Yeah.
event. This was June of this year. This is actually right before, maybe it was right before I met you. It was like May, June. Anyway, it was right around that time.
Mm.
This thing's at 6:30 at night. Okay, now it's summertime, so the sun's over here, but it's 6:30
Yeah.
at night, and I'm walking around this pool, and everybody, kids, parents, everybody is just coating themselves with sunscreen. And the first thing I thought was, you idiots,
Mm.
there's no way for you to get sunburned right now. Anyway, when I go, I mean, listen, I don't like chemical sunscreens. There's some good mineral products out there that every now and then, if I even put
Yeah.
sunscreen on, I will use. But if I take my kids to the
Yeah.
beach, Jake, when it gets to be about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, we get out there early, we have all the fun. It's like, all right, guys, let's go back to the house. Let's play a board game. Let's watch a movie. Let's have lunch. And then, come 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll come back out here and have some more beach time. And so,
Mm.
it's just, we need to develop a smarter relationship with where's the sun in the sky. We've got all this lightweight, super tactical, sun blocking uh, clothing, that we can go swimming in and all that fun stuff. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I'm not ready to have this conversation because I'm not versed on all the literature on it, but a lot of these seed oils that we're ingesting seem to be very problematic at creating
Yeah.
an environment where we're inflamed and more susceptible to sunburn. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just here's one. Look at the incidence of skin cancer next to the usage of sunscreen next to a graph of the SPF values, right? And you can track all of this back. Go back 30, 40 years, right? So for your listeners, like imagine a graph of a vertical and a horizontal axis. So the incidence of skincare have gone up precipitously in the last 40 years. So has the use of sunscreen in the last 40 years. So people are using sunscreen more now than they were then. And the SPF value has gone up, like standard deviations of increases. Like I think when, again, we were talking about Mobile and Point Clear, well, I can just close my eyes and smell the Panama Jack suntanning oil that my dad used to use. Yeah. I mean, I'm 50. Okay. So in my
Hawaiian Tropic.
Hawaiian Tropic, Panama Jack, all the great stuff. It smelled like
the oil.
It smelled like it was an oil-based product. Okay. And I think I can't remember an SPF value higher than maybe 15 or 20 when I was a kid. You're holding up 5. I mean, these are low. I remember the Panama Jack, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Those were your options. And look out today. Go to the store today. We've got 150 SPF, 120 SPF. So, dude. Yeah. So
I didn't even know that.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I didn't even know
you
that.
can go to the store right now and buy 120 SPF cream.
I feel like maybe as a kid, the highest I remember seeing was like 50. And that would be like the outlier, like, oh, that must be for like it's weird to say this, but like, oh, that must be baby sunscreen, you know, like, cause it's 50, like super sensitive skin. Like, and it's just ridiculous to even say that. But yeah, I definitely never had anything over like 30. And I remember being like, at people like, man, 30, this is so much. Like normally it was like 15, you know, it was like kind of the max.
Well, and we're a suntan culture.
150.
Oh, yeah.
What?
We're a suntan culture, man. You'd never used the 30 when you were a kid because you were uncool.
Wow.
You weren't uncool.
150 though, dude? Holy God.
But so here's the thing. If sunscreen works and SPF is valid, then the incidence of skin cancer,
doesn't make
all
sense.
three of those lines on the same graph they're all parallel. So cancer's going up, use is going up.
There should be an inverse correlation. They should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
But there's not. That's bad advertising.
Well, we don't even need to get into how smart they are on the advertising front. You know, they got everybody signed. Again, I'm at this swim meet at 7:00 at night and everyone's putting sunscreen on. It's like, oh my God, y'all don't even understand. The sun right now is the best time to get your sun. You know, that near infrared and, you know, and of course everyone's got their sunglasses on. It's like, let that UV light in your eyes, brother. Let's keep those circadian rhythms going.
Now, this is the golden hour time. Explain that a little more, Charles, for everybody about the sun, your shadow being taller than yourself, and how that plays into not being able to get.
Yeah, sure. So as the angle of the sun relative to where you are on the planet, and the angle can be two-way. You know, it's winter right now. Nobody in East Tennessee is getting any vitamin D right now. There's no threat of being sunburned, even if it's noon, because the angle of approach of that sunlight has to go through enough atmospheric interference. You know, again, think like straight down versus off to the side. There's enough. I wish I could remember all the right vernacular here based on all my science classes, but the moment of angle, or the angle of refraction. I guess you're getting enough refraction off the Earth's atmosphere to where it's only letting in a certain amount of light. You can, for those that don't know, they call it sun staring. You can go outside in the morning when the sun's coming up, and it's that beautiful orange in the morning and the evening. You can stare right at that sucker. You can sit there and stare at the sun for a good 10 or 15 minutes if you want to. Try doing that at noon. You can't, and you shouldn't.
Right.
And so the good simple rule is, if you're standing there, and not that you need to carry around a tape measure, but if your shadow looks taller than you are, then you're safe. There's no problems there. And so,
That's pretty
yeah.
simple.
And again, test it out right now. Like, we're in the northern hemisphere. You're probably a little south of me, but not too far south of me in terms of where we are in East Tennessee. But,
Yeah.
on a sunny day at noon, walk outside and see how tall your shadow is. It's taller than you are. You're not getting any vitamin D, and you're certainly not getting sunburn. So
That's a great bait for everybody. Remember that you are not getting sunburned if any time whilst exposed to the sun, your shadow is taller than you are. Cool. So you grew up raising pigs then, like obviously,
God, no.
the aha moment of the sunburn, but like you grew up raising pigs. So like, it wasn't just like, hey, let's try lard. Like you've been working with it. You've been around it. You
Well,
had a thing for
kind
it.
of. I mean, I did not grow. I grew up very agriculturally farming adjacent. My family's background is in the dairy business. I started growing pigs in
Got it.
2016, 17. Grew up outdoors.
Cool.
I've always loved the outdoors, played sports, just always loved being outside and being active. Um, Looking back again, I sort of had this agricultural adjacent upbringing. We didn't grow up on a farm. My parents, we had some chickens and some goats and, early memories of peeing on the electric fence to see what happened, that kind of stuff. But no, my real
Nice.
passion for farming, that curiosity was really ignited through the paleo diet. You're in Austin. There was a conference called Paleo FX that kicked off, I want to say, in
Sure.
2012. And again, my ex-wife and I had these. We were one of the early. Paleo Comfort Foods was our first book. I think it was maybe the second or third paleo cookbook that had pretty pictures and looked like a proper cookbook. Lauren Cordain had a cookbook. Of course, he's sort of the godfather of the paleo movement. But I mean, hell, his cookbook had no pictures, and I think he wrote it, and he just, it's just
Mm.
like, sorry, Lauren, but people like pretty pictures and want to see what their food looks like, and so we were very fortunate. I'm sure you know the name Rob Wolf. Rob sort of
Okay.
encouraged us to write his cookbook. He was a big lifestyle guy. He wrote the Paleo Solution. I think it launched in maybe 2010 or 11, and yeah, so we were early to the paleo scene, and this Paleo FX popped up in Austin. It's like I've been coming to Austin like on an annual pilgrimage ever since 2012, and but it was that movement, So you join a gym, you start paying attention to what you eat, and eventually it's like, okay, it's not just calories in, calories out. What's the quality of the food? And then at some point you get to, okay, the quality's got to be here. Where am I sourcing it from? And so it was really cool,
Yep.
Jake. The paleo. So that first few years of Paleo FX, like everybody's arguing over protein, carbs, and fat, and macros and micros, and blah blah blah. And it was almost like someone snapped their finger. I think it was maybe 2013 or
Mm.
14, and the entire argument or what people were worried about shifted from macros and micros to where do we get our food from? Where is it sourced? How is it
Mm.
grown? And so, White Oak Pastures and Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund and Epic Provisions and, all these sort of right on the cusp of, regenerative ag and what's the soil health look like? All of this started becoming sort of mainstream dialogue around some of these events, and I just got enamored by it. Julie and I were asked.
Nice.
We went to Polyface Farms. I'm going to say this is the summer of 14. Our second cookbook was coming out. We went up there and volunteered our time
Mm.
for a fundraiser for for the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. Rob was there. Sally Fallon Morell from the Weston A. Price Foundation was there. It was great. Oh
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
it was
Yeah.
super cool.
Nice.
And but I set foot on I call Polyface like Mecca. Like I like to make annual pilgrimages up there. But seeing how Joel and his family um, cared for the land, cared for the animals, it just made so much sense to me. I fell in
Yeah.
love with it, and that's
This is
yeah,
Saladin.
yeah, Yeah,
Nice.
Joel's, and it looks like he's going to be tapped. It looks like he's going to have one of these advisory positions with the Department of Agriculture, or maybe even the USDA,
Nice.
coming into this
Nice.
new administration. Which
Amazing.
I am, I have so much hope. Famous last words.
That's
But
awesome.
anyway, so yeah, that was paleo, and so I started farming using a lot of Joel's techniques. I started farming in 16, 17, and I loved it. I mean, it's talk about I'm trying to remember who the leadership like business coach that talks about the concept of feed the animals, right? There's in business and in life, there's the things you got to do every day. You got to get up, you got to do this, you got to do
Yeah.
that. And he refers to it as FTAs, feed the animals. Well, farming is the literal get up and go care for the animals. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, what got you into that in the first place? I mean, you talked about your ex-wife and yourself writing your books, that's which is super cool, obviously, but was it a health reason? Like, did you have issues going on? Did y'all, was it cultural, social, familial? Like, was there a lot of people, it's like, I had, this condition and I needed to change my health and I did it through my diet, or I had this going on, or I was, something. Was there a specific reason for you or for y'all, or you just kind of, fall
Yeah,
into
I
it?
love that question. I count myself extremely lucky, having been in this community for a long time. I know a lot of people that came to paleo or keto or any of these sort of dietary tools because they were sick
Yeah.
or had some
Yeah.
autoimmune condition. My origin story is actually I was hard and fast in CrossFit and pushed the gas pedal a little too hard. Form wasn't great, and I jacked my back up like 8 ways to Sunday.
Mm,
And so sort of went from this lifestyle of, 2 workouts a day, endurance in the morning, weights in the afternoon, to literally like half
yeah. Yeah.
bedridden, right? I mean, I spent about
Mm,
6 months. I ruptured my L4-5 and L5S1. Um, yeah,
oof.
no fun. Back to pretty normal. I never did the surgery or anything like that. But the first thing that really popped in my head was, what the hell am I going to eat? Because I put all this work in. I don't want to become a fat, slob again, or I don't want all that excess weight back. And
Yeah.
we were zoning really hard at the time. The CrossFit community back early, circa 2006, 7, 8, 9, was heavy into
Yep.
the
Yep. Yep.
macros and micros of the zone diet, very serious zone. Um,
Yep.
Found out about paleo through Rob Wolf. He was actually teaching the CrossFit nutrition certification. And so
Cool.
that was my motivation. And
Just being
yeah,
around it.
just being around it and wanting to maintain, the at least as close to the body composition I had gotten used to with activity
Yeah.
level up here in the 90 to 100% output land. That all of a sudden was down to, if I can walk to the mailbox and back, I feel like it's a victory for the day. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what brought me. What's kept me is, ever since then, and I'm not paleo anymore. I'm sort of I would say, carnivore adjacent. I eat mostly
Mm,
99% carnivore. I like some raw dairy. Love,
yeah.
I'm going to have a dessert or two over the holidays. I've been making raw ice cream as of late. So I like to
Nice.
tinker.
Good man.
But
Good
thank
man.
you. Thank you. There's nothing in the world more pleasurable than like a fresh strawberry in the spring when they're fresh, when they're
Yeah.
real strawberries.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
but I tell people all the time, like paleo as a template, it's just a great, In fact, if I could rewind the clock, Jake, I think paleo got overpitched as a vegetable diet back in the 6, 7, 8, 9.
Totally.
It's not a
Totally.
vegetable based diet. It's
Like,
a fucking meat, man.
no, no. And if you could have, if I call it pick it, pull it, kill it. Sick, Scared, and Stupid is brought to you by Life Like Us, a brand dedicated to empowering individuals to reclaim their health, strength, and clarity in a world that often profits from confusion and compromise. Life Like Us believes in the power of self-determination and the pursuit of personal excellence. Their mission is to inspire a return to natural, unaltered lifestyles that support health the way nature intended. Each product is designed and produced proudly in the USA, using only the highest quality materials to share a meaningful message. By choosing Life Like Us, you're not just purchasing apparel. You're joining a movement that values discipline, self-actualization, and the courage to take control of your health. Visit thelifelikeus.com to explore the full collection and become part of a community dedicated to clarity, strength, and truth. Right, which is essentially what paleo is, but people think it's so, oh, right, so it's mostly nuts. It's like you people, I don't know why the misassociation with the word or misconception of the word has to do with like, you know, more so agrarian sense, like picking and foraging. It's like paleo literally is pick, pull, kill. That's paleo.
Yep.
Pretty much, right? But people emphasize the pick, pull so hard, and they kind of like minimize the kill part. And it's like me now, it's like, that's me. That's the circle. I would say if you have like concentric rings, circles within circles, I would say to people to start somewhere, if they're trying to, what's the best way for me to get in the most macro sense, a wherewithal or sense of awareness for my health, and where can I begin? I'm a little timid. I don't want to jump right into carnivore, or I don't want to go hard vegan, or just red meat, salt and water. Where should I start? Pick, pull, kill. What does that mean? It basically just means whole food, right? If you eat ingredients, not things made of ingredients, like you talked about a fresh strawberry in season. Yeah, like for 99% of people out there that are metabolically sick or dealing with metabolic syndrome or have some type of chronic disease or dietarily related illness, did not get that way from eating strawberries. They didn't get that way from eating too much okra. They didn't get that way from cauliflower. They didn't get that way from potatoes. They didn't get that way from fish, like anything. So like I'm a vegan, pescatarian, Mediterranean, carnivore, ketovore, omnivore, freaking whatever. All those diets are fine. I'm going to say that. Now, there can be nutrient deficiencies associated with some of them, definitely. There can be sensitivities and intolerances associated with some of them that I would not recommend for all people, definitely. But people aren't getting chronic disease that our country is riddled with now, and all the checked boxes that come with metabolic syndrome because they eat too much okra or too many peas or too many strawberries or too much chicken. And so I think it's just, we get caught up in that sense of tribalism with our diets, where it's like, it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way. And I've been on those trains before too, for sure. But you said the word best at the beginning about these are tools.
That's right.
These diets are tools. They are levers that we can pull. Like, hey, maybe going red meat, salt, and water is the best thing for you because you have all those autoimmune things going on. You're trying to get rid of that psoriasis or the eczema, anything topical for sure on the skin. Elimination diet, high nutrient density, go, you're welcome. Now, how long do you stay there? Well, I'd say it depends on you, trying to reintroduce foods singularly to see what you can tolerate, to see what you're sensitive to see what you don't react well with. But most people don't have the patience for it, Charles. Most people don't want to believe that's what they got to go through, and that it's going to take this up. Oh my God, you mean I got to eliminate all those things in order to discern what is right or wrong for me or sits well? Yeah. And then you mean I need to eat that way for like a while before I can really like titrate myself back up to, yeah. Well, I'd rather just take the medicine or like, yeah, I know you would.
The most frustrated repeatedly I've ever been in my life. I don't remember how many paleo challenges we ran at our gym, 30, 60, 90-day paleo challenges. I don't remember how many, okay, but, one a quarter for 5 or 6 years, right? So whatever that is, a couple dozen. And the most frustrating thing was the guy or the gal that went off their antacid, went off this, went off that, within a week, right? They're off. Oh my God, I feel so great. And then day 31 or day 61, they go have lasagna, beer, pizza, just blow the doors off everything, and they feel like complete
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yep.
like, well, I wonder what did. And they're like, I don't know. And it's like, just
It's tough, man.
introduce it slowly. I'll tell you another one. And again, it's just an aspect of the modern world that, I mean, I'm in the business of like trying to reconnect people with this lard thing, which again, rewind the clock to 1910, like tallow didn't even exist in our food system. It was soap and candles. Like
Mm.
there were no grocery stores in 1910. There was like your general store, and then you had your abattoir, and then you had
Yeah,
your
just
bakery.
farmers market. I mean, not even farmers market,
It
just
was just
stands,
it was
produce
the
stands and
downtown
butchers. Yeah,
square was like all the little shops, right? There's yeah,
bizarre.
it was basically a bazaar, right? And there is a 100% chance that if you walked in the general store to get your nails and your turpentine and your shoelaces and all the things, 100% chance you walked out of there with a can of lard. Full
Mm.
stop. Like tallow wasn't really a thing in our food system until post-industrial age, post-World War II, when we had reliable refrigeration. Because again, up until reliable refrigeration, you weren't even harvesting an animal. Really, many animals in the summer. I mean, what are you gonna do with a
Sure.
1,500-pound
Where you
steer?
guys? Right.
Right? It's gonna
Right.
spoil in 2 days. So, um, here I am trying to reconnect people to that. Here's the other thing, like the idea of I love how you phrased it, like pick, pull. What was the third one? Pick, pull, kill.
Kill.
Pick, pull, kill. Right? Well, pick it and pull it. That was a seasonal thing 100 years ago.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
you
Exactly.
weren't picking strawberries in December. You weren't pulling
Right.
okra off the stalk in March. We had a
Right.
seasonality. Keto, a great tool, right? Ketosis is a tool that humans developed and evolved to have to get us through the winter. So we do two things really well. This is why pigs and humans share so much biology. Humans can store excess caloric intake in the form of subcutaneous fat very effectively,
Yep.
right? And then we spend those winter months in ketosis, converting those excess caloric stores into energy.
Into
That's right.
energy.
And so I love keto. Let me back up. You said this earlier. It's like, who are you and what are you trying to accomplish, right? We're talking
Yeah.
in generalities here, Jake. I mean, if you've got an autoimmune condition, we got to dig deeper. If you've got this thing going on, we got to dig deeper. But if you're a fairly metabolically healthy person that's just trying to maintain body weight, maintain muscle, energy levels and all that, you know, all of these tools are generally a great route for you. So it's just really a matter of
Yep.
what's going to work best for you. But keto, in that situation, I believe keto is a great tool that should not be year round for you. If you're metabolically healthy and trying to put on, good healthy muscle and maintain your bone density and all that, hell, I want you eating some fresh fruit in the spring and some apples in the fall
Mm.
I want you getting those excess carbohydrates, you know, during the summer and fall months when they would be naturally available to us, a couple 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I think seasonality is a big thing that we've lost touch with, and I really like how you're taking it back to 1910 a few times. Barely over 100 years ago. But our short-sightedness with history is very sad, unfortunately. Meaning we neglect the million years that precede what we know in the last 100, or what we think to be, the last 100 years is what many of us pay loyalty to, or homage to, or lay our allegiances to regarding health and health science, nutritional science, and medicine. Within the last 100 years, that's the microcosm that most of us put our loyalty to, as opposed to What about the hundreds of thousands and arguably million plus years of evolution that got
Yeah.
us here? Ways of living, forms of adaptation, what was consumed, et cetera, et cetera. You talked about, things that didn't exist 100 years ago. Well, yeah. And I mean, a lot of our organizations for that matter, whether it's a World Health Organization, American Medical Association, American Heart Association, American Cancer Society, reigning, authorities as far as in what we should do, what we should eat, how we should live, telling us what to do, whose science and rhetoric is not necessarily backdated any more than 200 years tops, which is nothing in the timeline of human evolution. Nothing that is. Someone once told me, what we know about nutrition science now and dietetics, on a 24-hour clock represents about a second as far as in what that would look like on the timeline of human evolution. A second out of 24 hours. That is nothing. Yet that is where we say, well, at this point in these studies, and this is what was said, and this is what the science says. Damn. But look what our current states of health and humanity and existence say.
Well, and you've also got to give credit to the marketing, right? So again, back to 1910. We'll talk about 1910, 1911, right? Because I always go back to 1910 because in 1911, Crisco, my nemesis, Crisco launched, right? Which, by the way, Crisco is short for crystallized cottonseed oil. They bleached it. Procter & Gamble bleached it white because if you're familiar with what lard looks like, it is white. And so they bleached it to mimic lard. But here's the thing. In 1910, 1911, if you wanted to take out an ad or deliver a message, for better or for worse, you're talking about print media, radio, and very limited consumer consumption of those things. The Saturday Evening Post, where you're reading it once a week. Fast forward to today, right? If I'm Procter and Gamble or Big Pharma or any, I've got television, I've got podcasts, I've got the amount of exposure that our eyes and ears get to messaging, for better or for worse, which is, again, I'm grateful to be able to come on, here and talk to you about all this. I think we're really on the verge, again, with sort of this understanding of how the algorithms are sort of screwing everybody up. And, you've been in this game for a while. You didn't see keto or carnivore or any of that on social media. Like the algorithms, if it wasn't vegan and vegetarian, you didn't see it, right? The algorithms hate healthy. They hate anything that so.
I've been silenced and suppressed plenty.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And so, but I think we're starting to turn that corner. You can put this podcast out. You got the Rogans of the world, or Drinking Bros, or the Meat Mafia. Some of my other homies in the Austin area, right? You can send this signal out, and it's, even if the algorithms don't like it, it's up to us as citizens to just, I can't tell you how many times a friend of mine that I know suffering with an autoimmune condition or heart condition or something, right? There's no algorithm that can keep me from taking a podcast or taking some article and sending it directly to them, just saying, hey, I love you, brother. I care about you. This is worth a listen, or this is worth a read, right? And so, I feel like we're turning a corner where the marketing industrial complex, which is again pitched poor food, poor dietary guidelines, poor pharma, the idea that lifestyle, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. That's been so lost, but we've got these weapons now, these digital weapons where we can just spread the word and hopefully just start to turn people a little bit toward the light, whether that be skincare or food or the sun is actually good for you. It's all this stuff, and it excites me. Again, I feel like a lot of this stuff is intuitive, but the number of people that I have conversations with, it's just a testament to how powerful this marketing
Yeah.
juggernaut of don't listen to your intuition, listen to me. I'm going to tell you, what to
Yeah.
put on your skin, what to put in your mouth, how many prescriptions you should be on. We're turning a corner, man.
Well, for someone that's been, kind of on the frontier, let's say, whether it was the inception of CrossFit, I was right there with you, 2007, 2008. The origins of that, like the nutrition that came with it, getting into the paleo world early on when you did, kind of getting a foothold in that, and being on the cutting edge of that, then writing the books. Compared to, let's say, the virality of CrossFit, compared to the trendiness that was paleo at the time when you were first getting into it, what does this look like to you in comparison? Like, you've got 2 years now with Pharaoh. Has that growth been as like hypersonic, or does it seem more viral, or does it seem, do you see a difference as far as in the awareness of your customer, or are they more educated, are they more concerned, like, you know
Yeah.
between the other two
Yeah,
phases?
that's a sharp question. I'm going to say, well, there's a couple of answers to that. One is we fair, our company. I have it's grassroots, like bootstrapped. I mean, if you've seen any of our videos with like the kids, like I'm still manufacturing things out of the house. Like we're still small,
It's awesome.
but
It's
part of
awesome.
that is by design. Like I love organic growth. I'm a big fan of the Fibonacci sequence and sort of these natural numerical
Nice.
organic growth strategies, right? And so now, all that being said, like everyone's sort of looking for that lightning in a bottle moment, right? And we would certainly welcome it. What I have seen in terms of the industry is you've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the tallow space. Now, you know,
Yep.
it still probably represents, if you added all of us up, lard, tallow, and I love tallow. This is not me bemoaning tallow. We use it in our products, but you add Van Man and Toops and Co. and Summer Solace, and you add all the tallow and lard, all the animal fat based skincare companies together. They're probably 1%, if on a good day, of the entire consumer market for skincare in the U.S. Probably.
It's
I'm
amazing.
speculating, Jake, right?
Amazing.
But they were
Amazing.
0% or 0.0001% 5 years ago, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um, we've got a convergence.
That's a
What's
threat.
that?
That's a real threat.
Well, it's funny. There's a reason.
And I mean that seriously. Not people. Oh, that's not a
Agreed.
threat. That
No,
is a threat.
I
That
totally
is a
agree.
real
So
threat.
I love the study of numbers. RFK brought this to the forefront for me. So he was running as an independent, right? Do you know what the rule is
Yep.
around independent candidacy in the presidential election in the United States of America is? If if
Do
that
tell.
candidate gets 5% of the votes, 5%, they're guaranteed an independent spot on the ballot in the next election. Instead of having to file and do
Mm.
all this stuff,
Oh, right.
5% is a very, very significant percentage
Sure.
in terms of the impact that can have on the world. And so, if we're 1% now, let's just keep forging ahead and get to 5%. Less than 3% of the pigs grown in this country. This is one of the underlying foundational premises of our business. I'm here to promote all the benefits of if you take a pig on the wall behind me, if you take a pig and you raise it the way it should be raised, a pastured, high animal integrity, feed it properly. If you do that, you make all these amazing, you make great food, you make the textile applications, and in my case, you make the most unbelievably efficacious skincare, right? But
Mm.
so I'm sitting here going, man, if we can just get pastured pork to 5% of the pigs grown in the United States of America, That's a huge
Mm,
benchmark, right? And so,
yeah.
I mean, back to your question. Yeah, I see I see, I see the marketplace being more and more responsive to and creating opportunities for brands like mine. You know, Van Man. Again, I've seen some other companies in the animal fat based skincare market just,
Yeah.
you know, hockey stick, which is awesome. Um, the other
Yeah.
piece to that, Jake, and you know this, I believe that the human species on this planet, holistically speaking, we'll just talk about I believe that American citizens across the board have reached a tipping point. Like, we have created such a toxic environment, food, skincare, the air we breathe, the water we drink. We have reached the tipping point. Great book by Malcolm Gladwell. If you haven't read it, we have reached the
Yeah.
tipping point now, right, where I can walk into a store and you could walk into a store or a Walmart or a Disney World, and now you're now in the minority, right?
Yeah.
Healthy, virulent, capable,
Yeah.
strong American citizens
Extremely. Very, very
is now
minority.
in the
Yeah.
minority, and we're not below 5%. We're still up there, um,
Yeah.
but we've reached a tipping point, and so I think you know, and people are getting tired of jumping from one drug to the next to the next to the next. Well, this drug solved this problem, but it created this one, and now we're gonna. So we keep chasing the symptoms, and so I'm very bullish, very optimistic, that as solutions like what to eat, what to put on your skin, how to exercise, go for all the low hanging fruit. The low hanging fruit is becoming more and more communicable, right? And
Yes.
so
Yes.
if we can just get those people that aren't healthy to buy into the low hanging fruit, then I think the sky's the limit. And unfortunately, there's a lot of sick and unhealthy people
There's a
in this
lot.
country, and they've been
Yeah.
psyoped to think that it's not about food, it's about your genetics. It's you were just born this way. I
Yeah.
it's very sad and it's very frustrating. Um, but there's casualties in every war, and I'm certainly, this is the hill I'm willing to die on in terms of skincare and health, and talking about optimal diet for optimal skincare. They're as
Yeah.
correlated as anything. But yeah, there's going to be some losers, and hopefully the biggest losers are big pharma and big ag, and all of those wackadoos. But I am optimistic.
Good. We need you to be. Like you keep pumping it out, man. Like talking about, it's like you have nothing to worry about because what you produce is genuine. You have like someone wants to audit you, so to speak, and I don't mean by way of taxes, but just audit my ingredients, audit my process, like audit any part of what I do, and you're gonna find nothing but things that are naturally existing that have been put together in my kitchen, in my home. Like this isn't some high-end laboratory that requires ultra processing. Like it's kind of like one of the best definitions somebody gave me about processing. And if you can't put it together in your own kitchen, consider it highly processed. If it's not something you can construct on your own, consider it highly processed. So it's like, okay, and if push came to shove, you could eat your stuff
Oh
too.
yeah,
And I have,
our skin food's a good.
I've
It's a
eaten it.
good.
I've
Yeah,
eaten it.
I have. I don't like our scented versions just because the essential oils aren't.
I was going to say, I wouldn't say some of the scented aspects could be off-putting to the palate, but God damn it, if you needed to survive on it in a pinch, it would
Absolutely,
work just fine.
absolutely. Here,
And
here's another one.
try to say that with
Oh
somebody
yeah.
else, like with somebody else's stuff. Like, I don't want to eat that shit. Like, God knows what's in that. But That's the truth of it, is that you got nothing to hide. There's no wool to pull off and say, oh God, I hope they don't find out about this and that we're putting this in the water or this is in the food, because that is the truth of it. And that's the namesake of the show, is Sick, Scared, and Stupid, is that that is where we are. That is our current state of health and condition and physicality and just premise of the United States. And like, I've kind of like looked at, different aspects of history and always been fascinated by tyranny and dictatorship and any type of governmental rule that is just absolutely in
Yeah.
total control. You can pick out any place in history and use whatever person or empire as an example, but to think what people are able to believe in and rally behind during desperate times is remarkable. And when you try to control a certain group of people with religion or politics or psychological warfare, like you touched on, you can do it even in today's world. I mean, like, let's take like North Korea, for example. It's amazing that they do what they do in such an efficient manner. In no way am I condoning it. In no way am I condoning the lack of humanity that it likely exists there. I've never been there, so I only know what I read and what I see. So it could all be fake. I don't know. But they clearly do something right in the form of control, in the form of preventing influence and obstruction and whatnot from the outside world. Other places, other parts of the world with religion do it very well. Prevent, intrusion, prevent influence from entering their families and their worlds, so that their children don't know what alcohol is. Their children don't know what cigarettes are. Their children do not know what pornography is. Their children do not know XYZ. But it has become more and more difficult to prevent these things from influencing and entering their worlds now because of technology and because of the age of modernity. Just the same, and kind of what you're talking about now, about the American people waking up. Yeah, because the genie is coming more and more and more out of the bottle and is not able to be put back in because there is too much information now. It is hypersonically
Oh yeah.
delivered. It is so readily available on all mediums, on all platforms. It has become inescapable, to where you can be the dumbest, the lowliest, the most off-grid, uninterrupted, non-touchable, non-concerned person, but in some form or another, it's going to hit you. It's going to get on your radar. It's going to get into your eyes. It's going to get into your ears. Somehow you're going to be
Yep.
exposed to it. And I think that is really the greatest asset that you have, I have, we have, and this whole kind of mission has, is that it's just this omnipresent sense of inescapability, to where you thought you could hide. Talked about Mobile. You thought you could hide in Mobile, Alabama, and not have to worry about, well, guess what? It's there too. You thought you could hide in Laredo, Texas, Jake, and not have to, it's there too. You thought you could hide in New Orleans. It's
Yep.
there too. Like, now is this sense of omnipresence in the form of health consciousness that I think was not here even just a few years ago. And I think that is the greatest ally that's on your side, my side, our sides, and the thing that's for sure here to stay and
Can
make
we
us win.
keep talking while I step outside real quick? Awesome. So, a couple things for your listening audience. I raced home from the road and I got to go to the bathroom. You can hear me okay?
Yes,
So the
sir.
operative word in the name of your podcast is scared, because if you can scare people, they will become sick, right? And so that's what they've gotten really good at, is this fear piece, right? But again, I like
Mm.
to couch everything with a huge sliver of hope. You're familiar with the Siete chip brand?
Absolutely. I was again talking about that earlier today, and I said how in no way is that company worth $1.2 billion. Dollars. Not every chip, not every bag, not every asset, not every uh, patented or trademark piece of IP, recipe, um, every building not worth $1.2 billion. Dollars. But Pepsi, to them, it is worth every bit of that to absorb, to remove them as a threat.
Well, I'm gonna add a sliver of positivity to what, because the minute that happened, okay, I'm back, everybody. By the way, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The minute that happened, everyone comes out of the woodwork, right? And they're like, "Oh, Siete is ruined. Just it's only going to be
Yeah,
a
no,
matter of
like
time.
God, good for them. Good for them. God
God
bless
bless
them.
them. But here's the really important point, and I lean into this all the time because we've seen it happen time and time and time again. Okay, Burt's Bees. Burt's Bees was this hyper reach.
Man, was that Clorox?
What's that?
Was that bought by
I
Clorox,
think
right?
so. It's hard to know who's at the very top
2017.
of the who's really buying it because there's been so much consolidation. But I like to
I think it was
okay,
Clorox, like 2017.
I like to point at Mark Sisson's company, Primal Kitchen, right?
Provocation.
And I would point this same thing at Siete, albeit this is Epic Brands, right? Epic sold.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and here's the thing, listener, you have the power in your hand to at the very moment you go buy a bag of Siete chips, and it doesn't say avocado oil, the ingredients that made this company great, and the and the commitment to quality that made consumers want to buy these chips and
Yeah.
patronize this company. The very second that no longer exists, you hold in your hand the power to tell the entire world Siete has fallen, right? Make America. Oh, I love it. But here we have again. You always sort of hold your breath a little bit, but Primal Kitchen, which I
Yeah.
can go to. I can go to the Walmart in Athens, Tennessee, and buy that damn Buffalo awesome salad dressing sauce of his. I can do it
Mm,
right now in Podunk, East Tennessee at the Walmart. But I pull that ingredient list out,
nice.
and it is the exact same ingredients that I bought in when Mark launched his company, whatever, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. Okay. The point being is this is the natural progress of progress.
Yes.
I'm fired up as hell that someone was willing to write Siete a $1.2 billion check for this
Yes.
company. And
That's admission of like, hey, we
yeah,
see
that's
you.
right.
Like you are messing with our formula. Like you're messing with the supply. You're messing with our shelving here. Like we have taken notice. We get it.
I call it the Coca-Cola theory. Coca-Cola as a
Yeah.
brand, God love them, hasn't developed a soft drink in like 40 years, right?
They've just
They
acquired
just let
many.
the up and comer come along and develop something cool, and they come in and stroke a big check.
Apple does
Of
the same
course.
thing. Apple does the same thing with apps. Oh, what does your app do? Oh, cool. It listens to music and tells you the song. Great. We're gonna put it on the next iOS.
Yeah. Well, or if you're not willing to take this check, then maybe we'll just make it not available on Apple. But yeah, yeah, there's some interesting stories, I'm sure, boardroom conversations there. But uh, again,
Definitely, definitely.
it's up to Faro, it's up to it's up to it's up to Siete to raise the
Yeah,
bar, develop relationships with consumers, stay committed to transparency, stay committed to, highest and best ingredients and education and all those. It's up to us to build the next thing. And then it's up to the
yeah.
consumer. Again, look, dude, stroke me a check. I mean, that's a pipe dream to think about, the couple $100 million, you know, event, right? But it's not outside the realm of possibility. My point is it's up to the
Totally.
entrepreneur to build it and the consumer to support it, and then it's up to the consumer to hold the big boys accountable, to continue to make sure that they're patronizing the right people. And you know, I don't care that, Clorox or Procter and Gamble or any of these other companies are making money on products that are clean and safe and transparent, because I know the minute
Sure.
they change that formulation, it's up to, the minute I'll go to the fridge right now and get my Buffalo Primal Kitchen sauce. The minute the ingredients change on that jar,
It's
it,
different.
it we have the power. And I love Mark Sisson. I
Right.
respect him. So, as long as the day is, but you can bet your butt that I will spend the 2 seconds once a month when I'm buying this stuff or once a quarter, and I'll flip that jar around and I'll check the ingredients just to,
Love it.
you know, buyer beware, because
Yep.
it does happen.
Yep.
It does happen. But
Yep.
if who bought him? Was it General Mills? Yeah, I think General Mills acquired Primal Kitchen. Yeah. If General Mills is smart and wants to keep that revenue stream coming in, they won't screw with the
Don't change it.
ingredients. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, because exactly, you're buying also that conscious customer.
absolutely.
That's what you're paying for, not only the trade secrets, so to speak, but you're buying that customer. And it's like, what's the value of that? Like the customer is what put that name and put that product on the map and what keeps them coming. So like if you disrupt the ingredients, you potentially disrupt the customer. And I'll say, or ask you one last thing before we let you go, because I know you're a busy man. You got to make good products for good people. Do you, is it, how do I say this? It's got to be really cool to see how conscious your customers are for your product.
Huh. Conscious and curious. Um, Man, it's
Yeah. They like, no one's like, I don't know. Like, look, you mentioned Coca-Cola. How many Coke bottles of Coca-Cola have I drank in my life? Or just like, yeah, I'll have a Coke. Like how just kind of in passing and just passive of an experience it can be, as opposed to like, man, this is going to be amazing. I will say this: there were years in my life when I was diving a lot offshore, and at the end of the day, I would always bring one bottle of Coca-Cola for a dive day, and I would have it at the end of a dive, like when we finished the day. So if we made a ton of dives at the end of the day, and I'd have a box of Popeye's chicken, and it would be cold in the ice chest, but it was just so good. At the end of the day, Popeye's chicken with a Coca-Cola, and it was like a victory thing. There might be a few other very conscious moments of like, this is going to be so great. This means a lot to me. But like your customers, nobody's just kind of like, I guess, kind of mopey opey. It's like, it's pretty specific and purpose driven, I would say. And asking you as a business owner, that's got to feel pretty
Oh, it
cool.
feels super cool. I mean, the stuff that's so I got into this because of the sunburn, right? I'm still here because um, there's an email.
You can't get sunburned
Well, no,
anymore?
I'm still here because I hear from other people, our customers,
Yeah.
and Jake, literally insert any skincare condition you can possibly imagine. I mean, the spectrum, precancerous, this, eczema, psoriasis. I've got an email or a text from somebody, my son's acne. It doesn't matter. I have stories of
Mm.
people that have gotten relief, have felt better, have seen, you got to be so damn careful these days. Like, I can't tell anyone that my stuff heals this or heals that, or, I mean, the lawyers are just sitting there waiting for you to say the wrong word. But
No.
when people tell me the impact, and it's not the eczema. It's the smile on their daughter's face because she can go to school now and not get picked on. Like, holy shit, dude, I'm gonna cry
Mm,
myself to sleep tonight.
mm,
And so
yeah.
that's a big part of it. My daughter's 10. Here's another big part of it. My daughter's 10, and when you drive a Volkswagen, you see all the Volkswagens on the road, and so I'm
Yeah.
picking up. I see it now. I hear it. I see all the marketing and all the pointed advertising by big cosmetics, big pharma, I mean, look at the commercials. Eczema is being normalized now. All these skincare conditions are being
Mm,
normalized with the pharmaceutical ad, right? But
totally. Just
yeah,
take this.
but also the TikTokers and these cosmetic brands and these companies, they're targeting their advertising at younger and younger and younger girls.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
damn it, not on my watch, homie. And so I'm having those conversations. I can't necessarily convince my daughter that not going to put, some blush on her. I mean, she's too young for half that shit, but I
Sure.
can, we don't do cosmetics, but like Toops and Co., this company I'm a big fan of them. Emily does some lip stuff and a little bit of makeup and stuff like that. And so, it fires me up to to be able to give my daughter a path, right? That's
Yes.
that's what it's ultimately up to all of us to do, is create a path. It's like parting the Red Sea. There's all this garbage out there. We gotta we gotta we gotta part the Red Sea and give consumers, give our friends and our family, give the willing or the desperate, give them a path to better health, a path to better results. The,
Yes.
the I'll close with this, Jake, and I thank you so much for having me on today. Um, I I like for everybody to know this, and you probably already do know this, but your body, your skin, your muscles, it wants so desperately to be healthy. It's
Yep.
naturally wired for homeostasis, for to look and feel its best. And so that's the best news. You just got to get out of the way, and you've got to feed it appropriately. You've got to give it the right ingredients and the right tools, and then you've also got to get out of the way. Like, don't put toxic stuff on your skin. Put something more natural. And hell, if it's not our product,
Yep.
pick a product. If you can read the ingredients, it's a good
Yep.
start. So
Yep. Yep.
that's the hope I really like to leave a lot, because again, there's a lot of sick, there's a lot of hurting, there's a lot of metabolically deranged people, and I like them to understand and know it's okay. Your your
Yeah.
body, it so wants for you to look and feel better. Let's just sit down and sort of talk about that low hanging fruit. How can we take the minimum required step forward? And so yeah, that's what I got, man.
That's awesome. I really appreciate it. It's good. Thank you for your time, Charles, and for hanging out with us today, and your passion and your commitment to doing what you do, man. It's much appreciated as a friend, as a consumer, and looking forward to see
Well,
more.
I can't wait to make another trip to Austin and see. Are you coming? Are you
Same.
coming to Hack Your Health in the fall?
I'll be
Awesome.
there.
I'm
I'll be
fired up
there.
about the Tampa location.
Yeah,
I
man.
think that's going to be
Yeah,
out of
I'll
this
be there
world.
for sure.
Um,
For sure.
well, thank you. Um, if
Yeah,
anyone
man.
is interested, lard FTW, lard for the win, is a discount code that people can use to try our product, save them a little bit of moolah, and um, you know, you put the link to the website in the show notes or something. But
There you go.
we're not hard to find.
There you go. You
If
got
you if
it.
you look if you Google lard and farro, we've somehow managed to sort of rise somewhere toward the top of the algorithms. But no, Jake, it's great to see you, man. I love chopping it up with you. It was great to see you a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, my trips to Austin will be much more frequent, I hope, in 2025. So looking forward to the next time we can press palms.
Right on. Same. Well, for everybody else, we'll have all of Charles's info in the show notes, just like I was mentioning, everything for Faro Skincare, where to connect with them on Instagram, where to shop with them online. And again, with the discount code that Charles just gave, LARD FTW. So LARD for the win to shop with that discount code. But other than that, man, thanks so much to Mr. Charles Mayfield, the owner and the brains and founder behind Faro Skincare. For everybody else, this has been another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. I'm your host, Jake Thomas. We'll see you next time.